Welcome to Google Hangout with Boston College experts. My name is Stephanie St. Martin, and I am the Boston College Alumni Social Media Manager in University Advancement here at BC. The goal of this series is to highlight the work of BC's faculty, staff, and alumni through conversations about their area of expertise and the news of the day. This Hangout will focus on BC alumni who have had success in the startup industry and is done in support with my colleagues in University Advancement, as well as the Office of News and Public Affairs. Today we are excited to welcome three amazing alumni who have had success in the startup industry, and their companies are thriving. So let me introduce you guys to our guests who have joined us. So here we go. I'm just going to do a screen share. I'm going to get all fancy for a second. Can you guys all see that? Yes, no, maybe so?
Not quite yet.
No, not quite yet. Yeah.
All right, we'll just read it off then, and we'll kind of go with that. So basically, let's introduce Bill Clerico. Bill, you can give a wave. Bill is the CEO and founder of WePay, where he drives the company's vision, strategy, and growth. Before founding WePay, he worked in technology investment banking at Jefferies & Company. We advertise in software, digital media, and financial technologies company on M&A and capital transactions. Bill has been named one of Business Insider's Silicon Valley 100 and one of Business Week's 30 under 30 for the best tech entrepreneurs. So that's Bill. Again, there he is, out in California with us today.
Thanks for having me, Steph.
No worries. Thanks for joining us. Moving down the line to Mr. Harvey Simmons. Harvey graduated from BC in 2011, and he is currently the Dean of Marketing Affairs of Evertrue. He worked previously, or Evertrue rather, is a Bain venture capital and tech arts company that helps over 200 leading institutions leverage real-time social media insights to spark alumni networking and improve fundraising efforts. When not running around Boston's startup community, you can find Harvey definitely still rooting for the Eagles, and he has worked both at HubSpot and BranchOut and was recently recognized as one of the Hive's 25 under 25 by the Boston Globe. So there's Harvey. Give a wave. There
Thank
it
you,
is.
Steph.
And last but certainly not least is Jonathan Lacoste, who is the co-founder and CEO of Jebbit. And Jebbit has been named one of the 25 most promising companies in the world by CNBC. It allows, basically what it is, and Jonathan can get more into this, it allows brands to create gamified experiences that keep users on the site longer, convert more, and purchase more. These brands attach to our platform to any digital channel, which is pretty cool. And he was also recognized as 25 under 25 by the Hive, by the Boston Globe. So there's Jonathan.
Thanks for having us, Steph.
Yeah, no worries. Just a reminder before we get started to all our viewers out there, you guys can submit questions via Twitter by using the hashtag BCVentures, so BCVentures. So let's get started. First question for you guys, I guess whoever wants to jump in and take it, what inspired you to go into the startup industry?
Great, yeah. So,
Jonathan.
Go ahead.
all right. So in any case, so I'm a junior, and I'm sitting in, I think it was I don't know, it was Devlin, or one of those buildings that we have right near the quad, and I was taking this course with an advertising professor that really just kind of blew me away. It was one of those amazing faculty-student relationships, and I ended up taking that towards working for an ad agency in New York City, which was a fantastic experience. And then after that, really kind of what happened was, and what's inspired a lot of my wanting to give back to BC is I had an alum, Mike Del Ponte, actually, I think, who was recently kind of recognized in the Chronicle for some of the work that he's been doing, gave a talk about a company he was starting. It was called Branch Out. And the essential kind of concept of the idea was that it was going to be LinkedIn for Facebook. So got really kind of enthralled by kind of the vision that he had for it, and was able to kind of build out a campus ambassadorship program for it. And really kind of what stuck out to me right off the bat was kind of the ability to really make this thing your own. The do now, apologize later mentality kind of really resonated strong, particularly for somebody who is still in college and wanting to be around a team, a relatively smaller team, who really cared kind of about what the bigger picture of the vision of what they were trying to accomplish. So after that, I got hooked and kind of continued to use some our alumni network to land over at HubSpot, which really kind of solidified the deal for me, and also solidified, working in startups in Boston too.
Great. And how about we ask your neighbor in Boston, or you're in the same city, Jonathan? I believe you're up.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, as Bill will probably say as well, most of us kind of happen to stumble into the startup industry, right? It's not something we ever planned for as a career path, so to speak. My personal experience started when I was actually in high school. I was working in a business plan competition, very much like we have BCBC at Boston College, and ended up working with a buddy to create a mobile app for different college campuses. So that was kind of my first experience of it. We raised a little seed funding, and so that was, very exciting at the time. But coming to BC, I think just getting the full CSOM experience, going on all the tech trek visits out east in Boston and out west, that was really when I became kind of really fascinated with this whole idea of, working at a startup or running a startup.
All right, Bill.
Sure. So my first exposure to startups was, I guess it was in undergrad. I took Professor Gallagher's Tech Trek West class, and so went on that whole journey. Got to see a ton of different startups, and really, it was my first exposure to tech. And after I graduated, I went to work in tech investment banking, and really, decided after a year of that, I was working pretty closely with a bunch of entrepreneurs. I was a banker; they were building companies, and it just looked like a lot more fun what they were doing versus what I was doing. And so I decided to make the leap and start a company.
Yeah, nice. We already actually have a question from Twitter, which is great. So I'm going to jump into that one. How can someone without a tech background get involved in startups? I know the three of you, correct me if I'm wrong, are all Carroll School graduates, correct?
No, A&S guy.
All right, Harvey, then you're taking this
here.
question. This is all you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think that, particularly as a company grows, there's a lot of different ways to get involved. I've been able to benefit from being on kind of the marketing side of things, and I really think that at the end of the day, fundamentally, particularly at a really early stage of any organization, if you're smart and really care about the idea that the company is pursuing, you can provide value. Whether that's providing content or providing whatever type of expertise that you have to the table, you're going to be able to kind of fit somewhere within the team and kind of propel it forward. That's been really kind of my personal experience with it thus far.
I guess to piggyback off that, Bill, was there a course other than your Carroll School courses that maybe helped you in your career? Kind of answering this question too, if you don't have a tech background, did you find something in another course that really helped you?
Yeah, so I'm actually an A&S guy as well. I studied computer science at UC. But I think having a tech background is definitely helpful. But I think really the defining characteristic of an entrepreneur is that they're just relentlessly resourceful. And that's not something I made up. Paul Graham wrote that in an essay. And I think when if you're that resourceful, you can find ways to get the talent you need and bring them to your organization and build products, even if you're not yourself technical, although I think it definitely helps.
And Jonathan, kind of pegging back off what Bill said, I know you mentioned Tech Trek, but was there any one faculty member at BC who really impacted you, kind of beyond the classroom, where you're thinking about their lectures and maybe a conversation you had?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't really think you can look back at your BC and CSOM experience without Professor Gallagher kind of coming to mind. So as Harvey and Bill know Professor Gallagher really well, he's kind of the faculty member on hand that spearheads most of these tech track efforts, and a lot of the other BC VC work that is done within CSOM. So, you know, I actually didn't have Professor Gallagher as a freshman. He teaches a freshman course, so I had to wait until sophomore year to kind of be exposed to him a little bit more. But the Tech Track West class with Professor Gallagher is one that really stands out.
Harvey, same question, BC faculty member?
Yeah, so for me, I took very little courses over kind of on the CSOM side. I was fortunate to have Professor Gallagher as well, so you can definitely see a consistent theme throughout here, and you would hear that as you talk to people who are working in startups outside of, from BC as well. But for me, really, I had a pivotal moment early on as a freshman at BC where I took a course in perspectives. And for me, that professor was Carrie Cronin. And really kind of what I got out of that experience was, I came to school really pretty set on knowing what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be an attorney. I thought that, I knew exactly what I was going to do after I graduated, coming in right off the bat. And that class kind of opened up a new way of kind of understanding myself, and then also really challenging myself to think that I can be my own person. And that's been kind of a really amazing thing for me as I've been kind of pursuing, and it allows you to take more risks when you kind of let yourself be you and kind of go after the things that you really aspire to, and kind of hope and believe and have faith that success and the things that you think are qualified success will follow that process.
I mean, that's so much of the entrepreneur, spirit, right? You have to take risks, and you have to kind of trust in yourself that you're gonna come out on the other end okay.
Right.
All right, Bill. Favorite professor?
Well, favorite professor, I got to give to Professor Gallagher for sure. But I think just to echo something that Harvey said, I think so much of being an entrepreneur is communicating. And so, like, I took Western cultural tradition in College of Arts and Sciences, and that was like, it was a long class, many semesters. But just the amount of reading and writing, and there's a seminar where you talk about what you're reading, what you're working on. All those skills translate almost directly into business or into just professional careers. As part of being an entrepreneur is deciding what the right thing to do is, but most of it is actually just communicating that and sort of rallying resources and people to your side. And I think it's a really important part of it. And so definitely applies pretty directly to our experiences here.
Yeah. So real quick for the BC class of 2018 who's coming on campus, take courses with Professor Gallagher and take perspectives, right? That's the big summary here. All right.
Yeah.
We actually have another question. It's actually from Professor Gallagher. So hi, Professor Gallagher. Thanks for watching. Don't make me blush. And summer is a time to geek up. What should students learn?
I think that one of the things I've been most particularly proud of seeing since graduating from school to now is kind of how much the Boston startup community and the ecosystem here has evolved. And that doesn't just go for Boston; it goes for a lot of other pockets all across the country as well too. And I think that there's really two key components to all this, and one is finding the networking events and I hate that word networking, but finding the opportunities to have quality conversations with people and provide them value and know what you're going to go in and kind of be able to help people out with. I think that's one big component of it. So during the summer, your students take advantage of that. Try to really, meet with people for coffee and tell them about your ideas and tell them about the things that you're really passionate about. Because once you graduate, it's a lot tougher. It's a lot more difficult to talk to these people because it might just seem that you're always looking for a job.
Right.
So I think that would be one thing, and the other thing too is just the amount of free resources out there right now is just it's amazing. You look at things like Code Academy and Treehouse, and there's just a lot of great resources out there. So definitely start brushing. That's one of the things I wish I did when I was in school a little bit. more.
I guess, Jonathan, kind of in the same mindset. So, first of all, to all our, viewers out there, definitely get out from behind the computer, right? Like, go get coffee, go meet people in person. Do you think that goes a long way in the startup community, where you guys are more, or can you be a community just via social media?
No, I absolutely agree with Harvey. I mean, I think the startup community is a little bit more social media inclined, maybe than other communities. But that doesn't mean that you should rely entirely on that. We're fortunate to be here in Boston, and obviously, Bill being out in the Valley, we have great ecosystems and communities. But during the summertime, going back to Professor Gallagher's question, I grew up in Ohio, so there wasn't necessarily a huge startup community in the Ohio or Cleveland area that's comparable to the Valley or Boston. So I spent a lot of the summers just actually reading. During the school year, so there's such a constant flow of work that's always being dumped on you that I found that reading for my own personal interest, or maybe in different professional things, you just never found time for. So I would recommend to students, dig into something that you're really interested in this summer.
And on that note, Jonathan,
go ahead.
Are there books that you'd recommend? I mean, there's a couple that come to mind right off the bat for me, but I'm interested to hear what you're thinking first.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a few of the cliche ones are kind of the Lean Startup.
Yeah.
I can't remember who wrote that one, but that's a standard startup book. Another one for anyone that's in startups or interested in startups, and kind of really a real glance at it without the the real side of it, I guess, is a lack of a better term, is Andreessen Horowitz. Some of the founders there, Mark Andreessen and Bill Horowitz. Bill Horowitz just put out a biography about kind of his personal experience starting his first company. It takes a real under-the-hood look at kind of the tough situations that entrepreneurs and startups can be faced with at times, and it's really interesting. So that's another one that recently I would recommend.
Yeah, I just read that last week. It was an awesome read. I highly recommend.
Yeah, I would put Behind the Cloud by Mark Benioff in there too. And then if you're on the marketing side of things, anything by Godin is gold. So.
Yeah, I also, not to be the Y Combinator fanboy out on the West Coast, but Paul Graham has a huge collection of essays which talk about startups and a lot of different things they face, and I highly recommend cruising through that as well.
I feel like we should have like a startup book club, like you guys should, well, maybe that's where I come in, where we get together an article of the books you all recommend, and we can share it with the alumni. I feel like that's something people need, because you guys are all reading the same books.
This is what I'm reading right now. Only the Paranoid Survivor, Andy Graham.
Nice.
So I would love to hear you guys give an update about what your companies are doing, because you are doing sensational things. And, with that, as you're talking about it, I guess you're probably hiring a lot. So are there any skills on a resume that you particularly look for, when you're interviewing people or kind of going through those applications? So, Bill, do you want to tell us what VPA is up to these days?
Sure, yeah. So when we first started the company, it was inspired by a lot of our experiences at BC, where we wanted to make it easy for people to collect money from friends. We were always like going on ski trips and spring break and all kinds of stuff. And so we wanted to make it easy for people to collect money from each other. So we got to work building that in 2008, 2009. And I think we built a pretty good product. The problem was it was a tough market to compete in. There were a lot of free competitors out there. And it was tough to really differentiate and also charge for that kind of a service. And so eventually we realized that the value we created was not in the kind of user experience around collecting money. It was in the platform we had built to actually move money around. And we realized there was all these developers out there that were building all kinds of really cool payment applications. And so we said, well, maybe we can actually just peel off the user experience and open up a set of APIs and allow people to come build on top of us. And so that was kind of the breakthrough about 2 years ago. And really what we do now is we provide a platform for other developers to come build on top of us. We really have a specialized solution geared towards marketplaces, crowdfunding sites, and people that are building small business software. So that's what we do. We power a couple hundred different software companies in their payments. We're moving close to about $1 billion a year, and we're just having fun out here.
Nice. And just a reminder, if you guys have questions who are watching as they tell about the companies, the hashtag is BC Ventures. So Harvey, what is Evertrue up to these days?
Yeah, so happy to be shooting from our new digs. So we got a new office space, I think probably about four months ago or so now, and it has just been amazing for us. And it was kind of the accumulation of a lot of great milestones for us, reaching over 200 customers for us, and getting to a point where we raised our Series A, and we're able to kind of really expand as a team and reach a lot of the demands that we have as a growing company. So on that front, like Evertrue as a platform, Stephanie mentioned it earlier, we are essentially a platform that helps institutions do a better job of tracking and engaging their alumni. We take the information that the school has on file and pair that up with social data to provide really real-time insights for both alumni networking and the fundraising component side of things. So I joined the team around, I think it was number 7, and we're at around 35 now. It's really an interesting experience, probably a different experience than a founder experience, as kind of seeing the different stages of the company and kind of how they develop along the way. But it's been a really amazing one. And one of the things to the question that you had there, Stephanie, about resumes and kind of what we're looking for. One of the things that I've been looking for, and I kind of brought it up earlier, for any students who are going out and looking to network. I'm also alumni as well, is trying to meet people who work in the space. When you send somebody your resume, think about how can I provide this person value right off the bat. Some of the best sales reps that we have here came in already with a couple deals in mind that they could close. A couple of the best marketers that we've been able to work with, whether it be an intern or full-time, provided us really great content before they even walked into the door. And it's the thing that surprises me a lot that, with not a whole ton of effort, sometimes you can be able to pull together something really nice that provides value, and you can hand that to the organization. And as Bill mentioned, just being relentlessly resourceful. Think about how you can be resourceful and hand that to the organization, because they don't have everything in a world that they're the startup. They don't have everything all set in place. So if you can provide that value, that's going to mean a lot to whatever organization that is.
And just to give you a plug, I adore the Evertrue blog. So for those of you watching, definitely it's worth the 5 minutes out of your day to read when they post it. I always get very excited when you post about Boston College. But nudge, but definitely worth a read there. And Jonathan, so as I said, Jebbit is one of the top 25 promising companies in the world. That's from CNBC. So all you, Jonathan, what's Jebbit up to these days?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not really sure what that means from CNBC, most promising, but it's an accolade that I guess we'll take. So to give a brief background for those that aren't familiar with Jebbit, we actually, we started working on this when we were in school still, and it was myself and Tom Coburn, my co-founder, and a few others, and we actually had a ton of students, BC students as well, that were helping out. So I think at one point we had as many as 25 or 30 cohorts that were all kind of dividing and conquering on the BC side. So it's certainly been quite a journey to come from that to where we are today. We just made our first full-time hire actually in New York City, so that's kind of our second location now, our office. So that's big for us. I think in terms of what Jebbit does, we have a very similar story to Bill and to WePay. When we first started, we were doing something that was based off of our experiences at BC. We noticed how, college students don't really engage with advertising. There was nothing in it for college students to engage with ads. It was just a boring process. So we wanted to make that more exciting. So our first step was we actually created a website, jebbit.com, where college students could go, they could log in, they could engage with different brands by answering questions and sharing things on social media and signing up for stuff. And in exchange, they could actually earn hard cash. So of course, as you can imagine, that got a lot of traction within the college audience to start. But that was really our proof point. The value and the vision that we had for the company was not in being able to provide access to college students that were willing to do things to earn cash to brands, but it was more in the technology we had built. And so I guess the update on Jevit is that we've taken that technology and we've white labeled it, which means we customize it to the brand that we're looking to work with in their design. And brands actually use our technology and attach it across all of their digital channels. So whether it's a display ad or whether it's an ad on Facebook or a mobile ad or through an email, brands are kind of using our technology in what's called this post-click engagement space. So I won't get too technical because it's kind of boring advertising stuff, but things are good. We're at just under 20 employees full-time now, and certainly growing and adding new clients every day. So.
Awesome. So just a quick reminder to the alumni watching, we do have a tech council that is super active both on the East Coast and the West Coast, and I believe, Bill, you recently spoke at the West Coast Council event. But if you're ever looking for events, it's a really great hashtag. It's easy. It's BCTC, and they're able to share news, technology news, and continue the conversation after these events. So, Bill, I don't know if you can speak to kind of the event that took place in Palo Alto with the Tech Council, but some of the things that they do out there.
Yeah, we had an awesome panel, if I do say so myself, a couple weeks ago with it was myself and a couple other young BC alums that were working in tech. We had folks working at Sequoia Capital, we had entrepreneurs, we had folks that were working at Box, and it was just it was a really good just sort of slice of what the tech industry was. And I think we have an event coming up, I believe it's June 11th. If you're on the West Coast, there's the annual dinner, and I just highly recommend it. It's an awesome community of people that all kind of work in or are interested in tech. And of course, we're all kind of united by that BC strand. And it's really surprising the strength of the BC community in the Bay Area. I mean, number of venture capitalists, entrepreneurs, and just executives in tech. It's a really kind of cool community.
I mean, not even just tech, but you guys had a great showing at the 150 on the road in San Francisco. I got to see you out there and kind of doing that service project, and Harvey was at the one in Boston. So, it just shows that the BC community, whether it's service or tech, we're there. Absolutely,
yeah.
So
and we had a nice little, BC Tech Council event at Venture Cafe just a few weeks ago as well. And as I mentioned earlier, and I'll keep saying, I think what's happening in Boston right now with BC startups is just amazing. I mean, you look at companies like Jevit, you look at companies like Whimsy, and you look at Drizzly, and you look at a lot of the different action and traction that's happening right now. NVIDIA technology, it's just nuts. And it's exciting to kind of see how this is going to continue to expand and grow.
Yeah, and I know the East Coast Tech Council has an event coming up, I believe, I want to say May 14th, but I can promise you that the Boston College Alumni Twitter account will let you guys know about both the West Coast event and the East Coast event. So keep an eye out for that, as well as the hashtag BCBC if you're trying to get involved with either of those. I really want to talk about, interview questions and, again, those skills you guys are looking for. And I feel like everyone has a favorite interview question. I know I do. So Jonathan, somebody comes in, you just said you hired somebody in New York. What's your go-to interview question?
Go-to interview question. So we like to mix it up a little bit. I think there are the traditional questions. One of my favorite traditional questions is, if you had to describe yourself in one word, what would that be? That one's always particularly difficult for people, and it's amazing to see the time and thought they put into it. There's normally 2 minutes of silence, and they think about it for a long time, and then they decide. One of our more favorite questions, though, is, as I think Harvey mentioned beforehand, it's really about the personality and less of the skills sometimes of working in a startup. So we like to see how creative people are, how well people can think through a problem. And so a question that I've personally asked a few times, and I don't even know the answer, but the point is not to answer the question, it's to see what their thought process is how many gas stations are in America? And just watch their reaction and see, how do they think about it? How do they go about solving it? Do they quit early, or do they kind of try and walk you through their logic? It's actually kind of a fun exercise.
My thought bubble is going on that one. All right, Harvey, you're up next.
It's 5,200,000 now. But in any case, no. What I find to be really most helpful, and this is, again, you can just kind of tell a lot by a person as kind of how they answer this question, is what would their dream job be? Because you're going to find out pretty quickly if they'd rather be working with people versus not working with people. If their dream job is somewhat correlated with the industry that you're working in, fantastic. I mean, for me, like, I'd love to, do work and to be able to help out and do things on the alumni side. So it's like it's a good fit. Like I'd like to be around this space. And particularly on that note too, not to get too off track, but again, speaking of Austin, and I know it's probably the same way out in Silicon Valley as well too, but there's so many companies starting that no matter what you're interested in, if you're a runner, if you love to bake, if you love, I mean, anything you can imagine conceivably, there's almost somebody trying to start a company for it. So you can really kind of go out and proactively find companies through the different accelerator programs. In Boston, it's things like Techstars and That's Challenge that you can really kind of use to pin down these different organizations. But if you have an interest, you can really go out and find it. And I'm looking to see if people are really authentically interested in what your organization does, because when you're at that 35 and below size, it really matters, because you need this person to be willing to work all hours and to be able to really give it 110%.
So Bill, you are the CEO of Repay, so I'm sure when people come to you for an interview, it's a different ballgame. I'd be intimidated by you, and we went to school together.
I'm not that bad. Come on.
So what's your interview question?
Yeah, I think one of the things I really like to just flesh out is does someone kind of live their life in accordance with our values? And so we've spent a lot of time talking about like what exactly are our values, and that's a whole other conversation. But like one of our values is that we value relationships, and we're in a kind of a relationship business. We have partners that we have to have good relationships with. We have customers that trust us with their money, and we want to build a culture here too of people that like each other and like to kind of have good relationships with each other. So one of the questions I use to ask about that is just who is the person from your career or your time at school that you still keep in touch with, and how do they have an impact on your life? And I think that's a good way to sort of flesh out like hey, is this someone that builds relationships with people along the way and keeps in touch with them and values that? And if they don't, that's okay. It's just that they're probably not going to be a fit with our culture.
Gotcha.
Hey Bill, quick question for you.
Yeah.
In your guys' interviews, sometimes we'll ask about asking someone to highlight what their favorite accomplishment is, or sometimes, can you describe a failure? Like, sometimes you just brutally failed. Do you guys do that as well? Do you find that to be effective?
We don't really prescribe those questions necessarily, but we leave it a lot more open-ended.
Yeah.
Another one of our values is authenticity, and so we do like to ask about times around people haven't succeeded, and see if they're sort of transparent about that, and if they're reflective about that, and they authentic about that, or do they just sort of explain it away or gloss over it. And so I think we try to get at some of the same stuff. We haven't quite reached the point where we're have matured to the point where we have these are the questions we ask. It's a little bit more open-ended than that.
Is honesty the best policy with you guys in terms of that kind of thing, where somebody has a failure and are they going to own up to it or not?
I think so. I mean, I think we chose the word authenticity, but part of authenticity is integrity, humility, and so yeah, I think we make mistakes all the time here. I think at the end of the day we want to be successful, but I think we're there is by learning.
We're really all looking for men and women for others. That's what.
Oh, Harvey, look at your quote that I can use and share and.
Always a plug.
Yeah.
I mean, you all have your BC stuff on. Jonathan with his, dapper wardrobe, and Bill and Harvey with their pennants in the background. It's like we planned this,
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of Boston College, I would love to hear your favorite memory from your time at BC. I don't know if you guys follow the Boston College Gold alumni page on Facebook, but we're doing a Gold Moments campaign where people are saying their favorite moment about their time at BC, and Gold is graduates of the last decade, which you all kind of fall into. So, I guess the question is, what's your favorite BC memory? And Bill, were you the ESPN one, or was that another one?
That was me. Yeah.
That was. Can you tell that story, even though if it's not your favorite? Because that's one of my favorite things.
Okay, I think we were getting at because while I was undergrad, I couldn't have told this story, but I guess now that we're graduate, I'm okay. So at BC, one of my activities was I was Baldwin as the BC mascot, and one day I got we sports marketing got an email from ESPN, and they wanted us to be in a This Is Sports Center commercial. And so I get to go be in a This Is Sports Center commercial with Maria Sharapova as Baldwin.
Oh, I'm jealous.
I got to meet her dog and her mom. That's kind of cool. I didn't really get to meet her though.
Did you also do the behind the basket #1 on SportsCenter? Or was that it? Was that?
No, that was someone else.
Baldwin made #1 on SportsCenter while I was at BC from a behind the back shot. It was pretty great.
Or maybe he's being modest, and we'll just never know, you know.
But other than that, Bill, was there another gold moment you loved?
Well, I mean, there's just so many awesome moments at BC. It's hard to pick one. I met my girlfriend of 2 years at our 5-year reunion at Marianne, so that was a good moment. I'm gonna get big points for that shout out right there. I think, taking Tech Trek with Professor Gallagher was a huge moment. Through Professor Gallagher, I met Peter Bell, and I interned at one of a startup that he was backing after my sophomore year. And through that, got to build a relationship with him, and got really to work at a startup. That was a really fun memory. I could go on and on and on, but it's good times.
All right, Harvey, favorite BC memory, and let's see if you can pick one.
Yeah, I know it's really hard to kind of pick exactly one. I guess my entire senior year living in the mods was definitely a particular highlight that I'll never forget. I have 11 best friends, and actually Justin is one of them. So that was Mod 24. Really strong collection of folks in that quad our senior year. But for me, really, when I look at BC, there were a lot of those quiet moments, like walking in between dorm rooms and walking in between from the library, to a classroom, and it was just kind of even at night, the peacefulness and the quietness of campus that I'm not going to forget. And although I was a philosophy and communications major, I kind of really consider myself a UGBC major, at least a double UGBC major. So for me, and I think one of the reasons I have proclivity and interest in doing things in startups too was that UGBC was just an amazing experience for me. Being able to talk and have heated debates in Senate about ideas that really mattered a lot to me, and getting challenged on those ideas and working back and forth, and being able to start things like ice skating and Conti, MC pep rallies, and just as Bill kind of did with Baldwin, being able to really show that pride that have for the school, and just being able to really kind of kick off different events, start things, and kind of see that still be around some of those different things today, which I'm really liked, that some of those little tiny projects are still running and going. So.
All right, Jonathan, favorite BC memory?
Well, I don't think you can talk about your undergrad experience at BC without talking about a Marathon Monday. So I'm actually a marathon runner myself. So I ran marathon twice while I was a student at BC. I don't think there's anything that beats that first year. It was my first marathon, running in 95-degree weather, I think it was, and never thinking you'd be able to finish it, and going up Heartbreak Hill, finally hitting 21 and seeing all of your best friends, everyone that you know in the entire school, crowding, cheering you on. It was just a really kind of personal and touching moment. But yeah, definitely any Marathon Monday memory is a good one.
Awesome. So again, just a reminder to those watching, you can submit questions because we definitely will have some time for them through the hashtag BC Ventures via Twitter. So definitely ask our guys some questions. I guess, you guys kind of alluded to this earlier, but, your companies are doing great things. I know, Harvey, you said Evertrue just hit 200 customers. Are there any other, company accomplishments that you're so proud of? And I'll start with Harvey, and we'll kind of go down the line.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, for us it was kind of an accumulation of accomplishments and really exciting work that we've been able to do over the last few months. That kind of, we had this new space. We were able to kind of really come together as a team as having our own space. Beyond all of that as well too, I think we're at a really interesting point right now where we're working on kind of a new product that is an extension of our current product that's more focused on the fundraising side. So not really as strong as Pivot, but really just kind of working on building this new product that is going to be really interesting to kind of see how it develops. So we've been making some really, really great hires, and I think hires are accomplishment in a huge front. Seeing your team just grow and mature is just really spectacular to kind of see how other outside opinions can really kind of help inform some of the different developments that your product makes along the way. So I'm really, really psyched to see kind of how some of these fresher products are going to kind of do out in the marketplace, because not until you put it out there do you know necessarily how people are always going to use it, and that was definitely the case for our first product as well. So it'll be exciting to kind of know in the next few months how things are being used.
Jonathan, proudest accomplishment?
So recent accomplishments that I think our team is pretty proud of. There's a big conference in our space called South by Southwest. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's an annual conference held down in Texas. Pretty much more like a festival. It takes over the entire city of Austin, Texas. So this past year, they held a competition. Anyone at the event could go ahead and rate startups down there, and we walked away as the #1 rated startup at this year's South by Southwest event. So I think that's really telling, and that's something that we are pretty proud of. Obviously, as we're in the business of running a business, so we have some good private revenue metrics. We had our best quarter last quarter, and so those are all things that you look for. But I think the South by one is kind of neat.
All right, Bill.
I think it's funny. Like in startup world, it's every day is either like the best day of your life or the worst day.
What day is it today for you, Bill? Good or bad?
I think it's good. I'm not 100% sure. It's still early. So I don't know. I think we too hit some great metrics. It's funny, like the first 5 employees that we pay, we set this goal. It was just like this crazy goal in terms of if we ever got to this much revenue per month, we'd take the company to Miami, and we hit that in December. And so we went on, the 5 of us that were there from the beginning went on a little trip, which was awesome. So that was a cool moment. But I think the sort of proudest I get in terms of accomplishments are, I think, when we hire awesome people. Like it's humbling to just find someone really great and convince them to come join your team, and when they sign on, they can just have so much of an impact. So that's what I get most excited about now.
So we did get a question from Twitter, and it's kind of going back to that authenticity thing you said earlier, Bill, with they basically want to turn around the question on you guys. So warning you now, I'll let you kind of think about it. Maybe I'll start with Jonathan on this one. But what is a failure that you learned the most from?
Let's see. So there, as Bill kind of said, there's a new one every day, right? There are small lessons that you bring along with you, and I think it's about how you take those lessons and obviously apply it, and aren't afraid to set yourselves up to make a mistake or fail either. A lot of the times what we do is we will actually, operate in a way that even if we fail, it's a success because we're going to learn something from it. I think one of the times that we didn't plan on doing that, though, and failed, where came up a little bit short, was last year as we were moving away from the kind of collegejebbit.com website. We were really ambitious about wanting to launch, what the next phase of Jebbit would be. And I'll cut a very long story short, but we basically tried to launch our own version of an ad network. It didn't really go too well, and we ended up having to clean up a mess. But we learned from that, and we kind of took those learnings to what we're doing today.
All right, Harvey.
Yeah, so I think that on that note, when thinking about particularly, I guess from an early team member perspective, instead of from a company-wide perspective, what you want to do when you get in is just do so much, and you want to make an impact on the business in every way possible, in every way imaginable. So, I think one of the things that I definitely learned over the first 2.5 years I was here is really just focus on doing a few things really well. And that goes for, I think, startups in general, too, and for any type of, thing you're going after. We were trying to do, AdWords, targeting ads, let's do blog, webinars, ebooks, let's try to do everything all at once. Let's try to do case. And for a very long time, for about 2 years, I was the only marketing person on staff here. And I think about sometimes, if we did just 3 things instead of, maybe more than 3, but, if we did a smaller quantity of things instead of trying to do everything and trying to check boxes sometimes, we would have been able to make more of an impact with some quality. It's a quality versus quantity type of conversation when thinking about how you're expending your time.
All right. Go ahead.
So I guess for me, lots of mistakes, lots of failures. But I think one of the ones that really sticks out in my mind is in the early days, we were just really obsessed with trying to raise money. And so we tried to kind of go out and we met with tons of venture capitalists and we had this impeccable business plan and this great presentation and really took our eyes off the ball in terms of building a good product that people wanted. And so we wasted probably, maybe even a year of time trying to just get money, and eventually basically gave up and then said, okay, we're just going to focus on building the product. And actually that was kind of the inflection point in the company's history because when we were focused on raising money, we got no traction. And then as soon as we really shifted gears and said, okay, we're just going to focus on building this product, then the money came. It was kind of a little bit counterintuitive. And then I think after we raised the money, we made yet another mistake, which was we allowed the money to distract us. So we got really obsessed with getting the right office space and hiring all these different people and spending the money that we had just raised. When I think we actually should have just stayed really focused on building the product. And so lesson learned for sure.
So we are definitely approaching time, but I would love for you guys, we're on social media. How can they find out more about your company, maybe include your Twitter handles, if you guys want to get some followers, and if anyone who's watching has additional questions. So if you guys, how can they learn more about your companies and where can they follow you on Twitter?
Yeah, so my handle is just @BillClerico, and our company handle is @WePay. And if people want to just check us out, you can go to WePay.com. And if you go to WePay.com/jobs, we've got 12 open recs ranging from risk data scientists to entry-level sales and kind of everything in between. So we'd definitely love to chat with anyone who's interested.
Bill, if you tweet out any of those jobs with the hashtag #HireEagles,
okay.
I think I know for a fact the BC Alumni account will retweet it.
Awesome.
So just a heads up.
It's a good hack for anyone else trying to get retweets.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hire Eagles. All right, Harvey. How can people learn more about Evertrue, and are there any Twitter handles they should be following?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So if you want to connect with me directly, you can follow me at HOSimmons4. That's my handle. But for Evertrue, you can get us at Evertrue and Evertrue.com. And the same point that Bill was talking about there too, on our website, you can find different career opportunities that we have available right now. We're looking for account managers, for people who are in kind of controller, more finance side roles as well with engineering opportunities there as well. So definitely check that out. In addition to, I think that a large part of us all spend times on the companies that we build and we work for. But on those notes too, we also spend a lot of time in the community. So if you're around Boston, at least, I would definitely check out Greenhorn Connect to see a lot of the different events that are taking place in the Boston area. You can always catch probably either Jonathan or I at a lot of those different things. We're always running around and having a good time and being able to connect and, you know, really have some awesome conversations with some really interesting people who care a lot about this space.
Jonathan?
Yeah, you can connect with me personally. My handle is @Lacoste Jonathan. It's just my name, last name first, first name last. We also have a Twitter handle. Obviously, it's just @Jebbit. Our blog isn't quite as amazing as Harvey and the Evertrue squad's blog, so I would avoid taking a look at that for the time being. But yeah, the Twitter handle, and we're actually very active on LinkedIn as well. If any of you want to follow Jebbit on LinkedIn. That's where we do a lot of our more business-focused postings on the updates of the technology and different new clients we've worked with in case studies. But yeah.
And I, of course, have to make a plug for following the Boston College accounts. BC is really doing great things on social across the university. So make sure you follow the main university account, which is @Boston College, as you all know. And also give a follow to BC Alumni for more alumni-focused news. Is there anything else you guys want to say before I kind of go into my closing remarks?
I'll just say a big thank you to BC again. You know, I know Harvey and I talk about it all the time, how supportive Boston College is and the community and all the Eagles we work with. In our business, we work with a ton of BC alum. It just happens to be that way in the marketing and the advertising community here in Boston. So, you know, anytime we bump into fellow Eagles, it's always a great moment. So thanks to everyone.
Yeah, I'd echo that as well. I think BC's been, there's no way that my co-founder Rich and I would be anywhere close to where we are now if it wasn't for BC. We wouldn't even know each other. So, you know, we're hugely grateful as well.
Right. And I wouldn't have known this world existed if it wasn't for BC Alum Talking. So, I mean, it definitely, you know, this community has just been amazing. Like I said, it's so exciting right now to kind of see the strong, you know, rise of BC startups kind of taking place. And on that note, too, if you are a recent grad and you're on the line here, if you're a student, or even if you're at, you know, a later phase in your career, really contemplate taking that risk and think about, you know, what it would be like to really kind of go after, you know, a vision or a concept that you really care about, and just know that, you know, we're here as resources. There's a whole community of BC alumni who are here as resources, things like the BC Tech Council and other things as well too. So definitely take advantage of that and go Eagles.
Well said.
Well, we definitely have a saying in the University Advancement Office that once you're an Eagle, you're always an Eagle. And I will say, you know, we get so much pride, and I know the alumni do too. I feel like anytime you see a BC success story, you feel this innate pride because it's like a success story for you. There's that kind of palpable feeling and emotion with the alumni community. So, I mean, you know, on behalf of Boston College, we are so proud of what you guys are doing. It's so great to watch your journeys. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. I know the alumni are going to appreciate it. The university appreciates it. You guys are always such good sports. Whenever we have requests to chat, you're always kind of on board. So I really, truly appreciate that. And on that note, again, thanks for your time. And you know, for those of you watching, remember you can really stay connected with Boston College through social media. There's an amazing page. If you go to bc.edu/social, you can see all the university accounts from the main channels to athletics to the Graduate School of Social Work. So definitely go to bc.edu/social. And I encourage everyone to give a follow to the Boston College Google Plus page as well as the Boston College alumni page. We really want to keep these Google Hangouts going. So by following either of those pages, you're going to be able to be aware of future Hangouts. Thank you guys again for joining us. Bill, have a great morning in California. Enjoy. For the boys in Boston, enjoy the rest of your afternoon on this gorgeous Friday.
Almost the weekend.
Almost the weekend, right? Bill, you got a few more hours, but you're almost there. But have a great, guys, thanks again so much. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.